IMP Purchasing is a solution that manages the kind of purchase order to pay process fundamentally. So you might raise a rec, you might raise an order, you need to mark your goods as being received, you need to process your invoices, and this tool manages all of that, ensuring that you're able to get the relevant approvals following your scheme of delegation. So this system keeps you compliant, allows you to buy things in a really efficient way through a digital platform. Often schools do things on paper, so bringing that into the system makes a lot of sense. Yeah, so IMP Purchasing is ultimately for anybody in a multi-academy trust that engages with the purchasing process. So you might be a teacher, you might be a budget holder that needs to buy something, you might be a person that needs to approve that expenditure, you might be the finance team that's kind of putting controls around how resources are used, how you're spending the money. You might be a person, a system administrator even, that needs to get in there and check the audit logs, to understand what's been going on. So really anybody in a MAT that needs to interact with that purchasing process or buying process will use IMP Purchasing to a greater or lesser extent. I guess from a really top level point of view, IMP Purchasing is fundamentally linked with the budgets that you will set with IMP Planner. So when you raise an order, you link that to a budget. That means the person that's raising the order doesn't have to worry about coding. They don't even need to understand what coding means. The person approving the order will get a live view of the amount of money they've got left to spend in their budget. If you're thinking more around the MAT scheme of delegation, IMP was built with MATs in mind, so we're very aware and in tune with the scheme of delegation that many MATs will use. Obviously they've got various different shapes and sizes, but we've got a workflow tool that allows kind of any MAT to build any form of approval workflow just to keep them compliant. Budget-led purchasing is probably the top level feature there, having the budget at the heart of the buying process. Moving kind of down the line into the invoicing side, we've recently released our AI-based invoice processing tool, really important in terms of operational efficiency. So invoices will land, they'll be processed by the AI, they'll be confirmed by a person, and you reduce data entry time massively by using that feature. You may raise a requisition, you'll then convert that to a purchase order, you'll receive those goods, you'll pay those invoices, and all the while the system is controlling that. So each of these people will interact with their part of the process, but the system is maintaining control over the overall process, making sure the approvals are happening. We're sending the POs out to the suppliers, we're processing the invoices in the tool. Obviously MATs are structured in very different ways. Sometimes schools process invoices themselves, sometimes they're processed centrally by the MAT. So ultimately the system will flex around the roles and responsibilities that the MAT has. Really one of the main things for me is that having the budget at the heart of the purchasing process really does enable budget holders to have much more control over their budget. They've got live view of what they've got left in their budget. It's the most believable version of the remaining spend number they'll have ever had access to, and that really drives better and more well-informed spend decisions. Again, thinking more historically, it might have been very, very difficult to arrive at a trustworthy left to spend number, and that's been a real challenge for budget holders in the past.